Happy Final Cut Pro update day. How's it going? Happy Tuesday. So Final Cut went from Final Cut no updates to Final Cut for iPad. And let me tell you. So I got something to share with you. It's been about 2 weeks. Couldn't really talk about it until this point. I'm just kidding. I am just kidding. I wish that would be some pretty awesome iPad itch. I do use DaVinci on the iPad. I have played with it a little bit, and it's pretty good. I am now really excited about Final Cut Pro for the iPad Pro, and it's one of those things where the moment they announced it, and I'm like, this is great, this is great, and then you just see this little byline right underneath. Subscription for Final Cut Pro for the iPad, and it's $5. Now, there is a comment or a poll. I'm curious to see what you guys are actually thinking, what you guys feel about the subscription model, because that is a sign for where Final Cut could go. Now, it may not go right away. Like the desktop version, it may not go right away to subscription model. I think Apple is doing the very, very safe route and like, let's do it on the iPad and see how people, because it's a whole new thing. It's a whole new thing. It's not something that you bought in 2011. This is brand new. So that does beg the question. Is there something brand new that's coming from Apple that's more than the Final Cut Pro X that was released in 2011? Is there that possibility? It may not happen at WWDC, though the timing is very suspicious. We're about 2 weeks from NAB, and we're 2 weeks away from WWDC. Now, as a worldwide developer conference, this should have been there. This is a piece of software that goes with the iOS that they're going to announce, the OS that they're going to announce. So I'm curious why they couldn't do that. They could have spent 15 minutes just talking about Final Cut on stage. They probably will, but they could have done that, and they didn't. So all of a sudden, everything, all my spidey senses are kind of peaked, and I'm very interested in where it's going to go. Let's see how the subscription is. Oh, the poll is going, it's almost 50-50. Make sure you guys get in that poll. I'm very curious because I have my thoughts. I very much have my thoughts about chopping the broccoli on the magnetic timeline for Final Cut Pro. I am very, very excited about it because it does open up a whole new can of worms for a lot of people, for a lot of creatives. Now, it is curious that it has to be on the high-end iPad Pro, the high-end iPad, and it is a subscription. So it's not meant for the casual users. Like, for instance, my daughter uses the iPad Pro, but like she has her tools that she likes using. This is not something that she would do on her own. This is not something that she would just be like, hey, let's subscribe for this new thing, which is really cool because she's actually an artist. She draws a lot. So that drawing on the video portion is huge for her. Like, she loves that. She's always trying to find a way to be able to create directly on the iPad animations. So this is a great, great tool. And I love the fact that they added in the remove background mask. So like all those little features that are amazing in DaVinci Resolve or Keeper. Someone made a comment earlier. It's like they feel bad for the developer of Keeper because he's essentially done. Like that's Final Cut is just going to be doing that. And if they introduce it to the desktop, then that is kind of all she wrote, unless they reached out to him and said, hey, we like your thing, and they just scooped it up from him. that wouldn't be out of the question for stuff that Apple has done in the past. Now let's see some of these comments. Let's see how so it's 23 votes and we're still 50-50. That's very interesting. I'm curious to hear why or why not. Let me know in the comments. Let me know in the chat why or why not you wouldn't do the subscription, or why you would. I know that Matthew O'Brien, who's in the chat, had a great case for it. If you're able to make money with Final Cut Pro or with these tools, then it's like, it's a no-brainer. You just keep using it. You kind of pay for it, and $5 is like almost nothing when it comes to a monthly expense, or $50 for the year if you buy the entire year. I'll definitely subscribe to it to try it out. Will I keep using it? We'll see. I'm very much, I like using the desktop or the laptop. So the third tier would be when I go to an iPad. But I'm curious. I'm curious to see how that plays. I want to know how I can get footage on and off, and is it more meant for people that are filming right on the iPad? Let's see. So Roger, he has a MacBook Pro, the M2 Pro with Final Cut X, and he doesn't have a need to subscribe. That perfect. There you go. If you don't have an iPad Pro, then there's no reason to. That's right out of the gate. Yeah, 100%. If you don't have an iPad Pro, don't go buy an iPad Pro. Final Cut Pro can actually do more currently than the iPad 4 or the iPad version of it. But it's very, very interesting. So having the subscription for both Final Cut Pro and Logic Pro, does that mean that they will continually be bringing new effects, titles, sound packs, etc., to warrant both apps being subscriptions? Yes. Now, here's the reasoning before it. I think Apple knows that they blundered with Final Cut Pro and not making it a subscription from the beginning. Like that is a decade or more worth of revenue for Apple that they could have been banking on. It would have been more than the $300 people would have spent. Like even if it was like, $9 a month, that would have worked out to like $900 equivalent, the equivalent that most people would have spent that would have been using it. But at the same time, if they had done the subscription model, there would have been more incentive to keep updating it, to innovate and push even further with it, because the money, it would be generating money. Like Apple has not made any more money from me for Final Cut Pro, and I've made a lot of money from using Final Cut Pro. So it's an uneven balance when it comes to Apple's take from this. Though I have bought a lot of their computers, so yeah, maybe it is fair. Maybe it does work out in their favor. But the whole report that came out a couple months ago saying that the Apple M1 products are so good that the sales for the M2 products actually dipped for the first time in years, because they're making the products really good. So now what do they do when people are going to be holding on to their products for more than 3, 5, 7 years? Because most people aren't going to need to upgrade that quickly. Like even the M1 iPad Pros, most people didn't upgrade to the M2 iPad Pro because there's no need for it. Like when the iPad M3 comes out, the sales are probably going to dip as well, because these, like I have the M2, and it is powerful. It is fast. It does all the things. It is very responsive. There's no need for it. And even the old iPad Pro that we had, I think it was like 2017, 2016 that we got it. So even that was 6 years old. So let's see. I don't know if the Final Cut had iPad version. It just got announced today. Let me move that down so it's not being blocked. Where is it? Why can't I move it? I can't. Why am I not able to move it? Anyways. Yeah, the whole thing is that, oh, there we go. That's what I wanted to do. Hello, Adam Ski. How's it going? Yeah, come on, let me move that. It doesn't want me to. All right, that's fine. We're living there. That's where we're living. So today, literally, if you look into here, let me just show you. Let me just show you, because that is a. So we're gonna go through this in a second, but I just want to show you the. There was a subtle third-party content. Does this look familiar to you? Yes, it does. This is motion VFX, but hey, they didn't really talk about it. They just said technology, gadgets, and I tweeted out and saying this is Apple's subtle way, not so subtle way of saying that motion VFX plugins are coming to the iPad for Final Cut Pro. And Motion VFX responded and saying, you know, they've been caught. It's like, yeah, so all those plugins are coming. And I'm pretty sure that FX Factory and all that, they're going to try to work their way to make sure that their plugins are able to work on this. It just makes sense for them. But yeah, so bring the entire studio to your shoot. Is this something that you guys are going to do? Is this where we're heading in the future? I'm curious, very curious. Let me see, where are we? Where's my stuff? Yeah, so Patrick, right on the money. It's on the landing page. I think apps are already getting younger and younger audiences comfortable with spending regular. Yeah, I think you're right on the money. It just, like my 12-year-old daughter, she's not someone that would be doing that. It's like, it would be something that she would ask me, and I think most parents wouldn't be like me, who are be like, oh yeah, for sure, absolutely no problem, just sign up for it. Most parents would be like, $5, get out of here. But I think that when it comes out, Apple has thought about the touch capability of it and being able to kind of drive it with the fingers and with the Apple Pencil. It's a pen. It's a stylus. Let's call it a stylus. It's okay. I think a lot of people are going to be with you on this one. They're going to try it out for a month, see if it's something that actually works out for them, and if it makes sense to them to even keep using it. Will they keep using it? Now, will they stop using Final Cut, or would they be upgrading from iMovie without having to pay the $300 up front? So I'm curious. I'm like, it's boggling my mind a little bit to find out how this is all going to play out. So do you think Apple will attempt to get a subscription service on Mac eventually? Yes, I do feel that they will do that. And why can't I move stuff? I'm trying to move that out of my face, but yeah, I do feel that Apple is going to, I do feel that Apple will find a way to make the subscription. It comes down to them not missing the boat on the second round. And if they do release the Mac Pro, they're going to release, I think, a beast of an update. Like, I'm really hopeful that Apple's update for Final Cut Pro is going to be something very, very substantial when it comes to the whole process. Like, I'm hopeful, not only hopeful, I know that they're going to add all the things that they added for the iPad version, because they mention in the video or in their documentation that you can actually bring your projects over from iPad to the desktop. I don't know if it's going to be round trippable. Would I be able to send my project back to iPad and kind of move back and forth? I think that would be cool. I think it's going to be more, you just send it, kind of like I'm pretty sure DaVinci you're only able to send it, and then not bring it back. But if you can round trip it, that would be great, because I would like to start the project, move it on to to my Mac, do some more stuff, and then bring it back to do the finishing touches, like the drawing on, like the the magic mouse or magic removal tool. I think those are going to be really cool features to have access to in a more intuitive way, like being able to draw right on the iPad, or being able to use Sidecar, or a Sidecar kind of enabled version of the iPad Final Cut Pro, where you're able to draw on it using the iPad as your Wacom tablet equivalent. That's the one thing that I've always been kind of missing with Sidecar. It's like you can't, it doesn't work like an iPad anymore. It just becomes a second screen. Unless I'm missing something, let me know. Let me know. So we're at 36 votes and we're at 50-50 for yes and no on the subscription. So let me ask you a deeper question. Will you pay for Final Cut Pro 11 if that became a subscription, but it came with substantial feature upgrades, like the background removal, like the more social configuring, the transcriptions, the better audio tools, better storage, better whatever, like all the things that you can kind of hope for if they came but they said, yes, this is a whole new version. You can continue using Final Cut Pro X for the next, we'll support it for about 3 more years with, minor updates, but like we're moving in this direction now with this one. And you can open old projects in the new one, but not vice versa. So would you pay for a subscription then? I know Matthew O'Brien, myself, Dylan Bates, Doc Rock, we're all in. We're all in on Final Cut Pro. Like we're gonna use it. I use all the apps when need be, but if you give me the choice on which app do I want to use to edit in, to work in, well, that's the one I'm gonna be in. I'm gonna be in Final Cut Pro if I get to just choose what I want to choose. So yeah, Dylan will be subscribing, but it's easy for me because yeah, he makes money, he makes a living from Final Cut Pro. Simple, done, no problem. Same with me. If I wasn't making it and I was just doing it for home videos or like smaller things, just kind of side projects kind of stuff, then I don't know. I may stick with DaVinci if it's not making money. Like it all comes down to, can you justify the $5 cost every single month? If you make more than $5 a month with the tool, put it back in and use the money to pay for that tool. So the touch interface and using the Apple Pencil will offer a new way of editing that you can't get in a Mac. Yeah, it's definitely going to have a little bit of a learning curve, which I'm excited. I'm excited to learn it, to play with it, to try it. And that is really starting to crank my gears. I don't want to lock over. There we go. Hey, learn to use your computer machine, man. All right. So I find the MacBook Pro physically seems more comfortable to edit with, and iPad also seems slower to edit with. We'll see. We'll see, because if the majority of footage that you're using is going to be HD or 4K, that is H.265, I don't think there's going to be an issue. Like this processor that's in this, the M2, is almost as fast as the processor that's in this guy. So I don't think it'll have a problem with it. This actually may be more efficient than that one. Although this is a Mac, so it may not be exactly the same. So hopefully they don't change the desktop version to a subscription-based in the future, in a future version. I think they will. I can't see them not doing it. They have moved so many different things to a subscription model. They have the Apple TV, which people are signing up for, and they're spending billions of dollars on content for that. So they can spend, $100 million on development of a tool if they're making $100 million and it's selling them more computers. That's really where this is going. And I think they're trying to justify having that cost separated from the hardware because of how, like I said earlier, that people are not upgrading as often. And Apple is turning into a service-based provider. They will start adding more AI stuff. They are going down the same path that kind of Adobe is and Microsoft. Like Microsoft doesn't actually create any software or hardware, and Adobe creates zero hardware, and they made $20 billion in profit just from software. So Apple's looking at that going like, hey, if we can make $20 billion from just our software services, maybe there's something worth looking into. And the thing is, they see how many people are using Adobe Premiere, and they see how many people are switching over to DaVinci Resolve. So that's another thing I want to ask. I'm curious about. Now that Final Cut is on the iPad, the odd man out right now is Premiere. Premiere has Adobe Rush, but they're the one lagging behind in that case. So, and they don't have any kind of magic mask or any kind of tool like that. So I'm curious to see if Adobe responds in that kind of way where they quickly shove in that feature, you know, like the roto mask or the roto brush, which is okay, which is good. But I don't know, just looking at the demo of how fast the background removal was in the demo for the Final Cut Pro on iPad, it's so much faster than it seemed than on the DaVinci version, like on the beta version. Oh, and I want to say, if you guys are thinking about switching over to DaVinci Resolve, don't buy it from the Apple Store, which I did, because you won't have access to the beta software until it becomes the public version of the software. So I can't even play with 18.5 yet. And I'm like, oh, it's like, do I just buy it again through the website? But it's like, I don't want to spend the money again on something that I already own. So I'm just gonna have to wait. So yeah, if you want to get access to the beta versions when they start coming out in the future for DaVinci Resolve, get it through Blackmagic and not through the Apple Store. That's your PSA for today. So it would be amazing if there were cross-party control along with the import-export available between the iPad and the Mac. Getting motion VFX into the iPad would certainly make things more interesting. Yeah, that's coming. Like I think by mid-June, or maybe even like at WWDC, there's going to be lots of stuff that's going to be coming. This will allow me to edit and shoot a short film and do a possible edit before coming home to the iMac. I thought about getting a laptop, but not now. That's interesting. That's very interesting. I don't know if I could work just on this and my desktop. I think I'd be more comfortable using the iPad, sorry, a MacBook. Though, one of the first things that I want to do when I get my hands on it on May 23rd, because I will be subscribing, is I want to see if I can bring my keyboard shortcuts over right away. Or do I have to set them up from scratch? Because if I can set up the keyboard shortcuts and use the Magic Keyboard, it's not going to be hard to switch over for me. And for a lot of people, I think that just having a keyboard and a beautiful screen, maybe I'll color correct on this, because this is a 10-bit screen and these are not. All these things are just, I'm excited because I don't know if you noticed today how excited not only the fanboys, but even people that weren't, necessarily fanboys of Apple or Final Cut, but they're like, oh, did you hear? It's like everybody, like just my whole, everything was just like iPad Pro. Like I couldn't scroll fast enough and get to something that wasn't Apple and iPad Pro related. Like it's just, everyone that I follow was just like, did you guys hear? And everyone's like, yeah, we heard. And everyone's responding to everyone. It was just like this, like feeding frenzy. I'm like, oh my God, it's just like, it's so good. Like, I think everyone made I'm doing a live stream because it's like, tomorrow it's too late. Tomorrow is too late. That's kind of where I thought. It's like, I was busy earlier, but it's like, I want to talk about this with you guys. So Resolve can do round trip or just have the same project open on both locations at once with the cloud. Boom, there you go. Heard it from the man himself. He knows what he's talking about. So the lack of ability to adjust LUFS to set the adjustments within Final Cut Pro makes me want to leave. That, I believe, is going to be fixed. Or just learn what the translation is and roughly, and you kind of figure it out. But I do agree, because every kind of broadcaster or even YouTube, they want their volume set in LUFS, not dBs, but LUFs or LUFs. I don't know how you say it, but it's ISO. It's not ISO. Stop saying ISO, you animals. But yeah, I agree. I think that's going to come. Like, if Apple releases a new update, I think there will be an overhaul with the keyframes. Oh, I wonder how the keyframing is on the Final Cut Pro on iPad. Did anyone hear anything about that? Did anyone read about that? Did anyone look at any of that? It's one of the first things that I'm going to check out. Keyframes. Because if that's true, then 10.6.6 will also have that. I'm excited. I'm excited. Makes me want to get it now. I guess there will be a choice on Mac with lifetime access or monthly subscription. For those that want to pay lifetime access with Final Cut on Mac, would be so angry with having to pay yet again. Ooh, yeah. I think they may. I think they may call it Final Cut Pro for Mac. I think that's what they may call it. And just say, this is a whole new thing. This isn't Final Cut Pro. Or maybe like Final Cut for Mac or something like that. Like, they're going to do something that just lets people know that this is a little bit different. That's kind of what I'm thinking. So if it becomes a subscription based on Mac, then hello DaVinci Resolve. And rightfully so. Though just know that DaVinci Resolve, the free version, does not support 10-bit. Patrick, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that it doesn't. It's one of the main questions I get is, why doesn't my iPhone footage work on the free version of DaVinci Resolve? It's because it doesn't support 10-bit. You need to down convert it. And also a lot of Sony people are like, I can't use the free version. Yeah, there you go. No 10-bit. No 10-bit for free. Which is fine, because most people don't need it. But if you're using this kind of stuff, we'll see. We'll see. So just switch to DaVinci Resolve like I did. Apple is paying too much. Apple's paying too much. They need to learn and change. Yeah, well, I think they're learning. So keyframes look the same to me. Yeah, let's see. Let's see. Hopefully, like, come on, they have to learn their lesson. They have to hear that one thing. Like, more than one person has put in that feature request. So I'm pretty sure they're like, they can't just look at that and be like, nah, no. Why would we put that in? Get out of here. That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. It has to, like, they have to put it in. I mean, wait, hold on a sec. I skipped a comment or two. So me equals take my money. Yeah, it definitely won't be as high as the Premiere subscription. I feel that it's going to be $10, $12 a month. That's where they'll cap it, because Premiere is $9.99 just for Premiere. And so Apple's offering isn't better than that. Like, there's no Photoshop, there's none of that for like a full package. So like, it could be $5 as well. Like $4.99 as an entry, like for people to be like, well, it's not that bad, like $5, and it's like, and then if you buy a new Mac, I'm kind of thinking this way: if people buy a new Mac, I feel that if people buy a new Mac in the future or after they announce it, it'll be one of those things. Or if you buy a new iPad, they'll be like, hey, you get Final Cut for free, for 6 months or something like that. Where if it's an iPad Pro, you'll get their Pro apps. Like there may be a Pro photo update that they may do for photographers. Like there may be things that are lurking in the background that we're just not aware of, because like this was sprung on everybody today. Like no leaks, no nothing, nobody had a kind of clue. Like I didn't hear anything about this, and I'm usually, I like to peruse the rumor sites just for fun, because I like to get my hopes up and then have them instantly crushed by the juggernaut that is Apple. Yeah, all in for sure on the magnetic timeline. It's hard to break. I love DaVinci Resolve, and like I said, it is fantastically frustrating. That's the only way I can describe it. Like I love it, but like my brain just doesn't work that way, especially when I'm like, why would I do this when it's so much easier over there? It's like that feeling you get. You're like, yeah, I could go work out, but like the couch looks really comfy right now. So it's that weird thing where I'm just like, I could do this so much faster. Why am I making it harder for myself? Even though DaVinci Resolve arguably is by far a better tool for professionals. But as someone that can just get stuff done, like when I need to do a basic rough cut, or I just need to do a little color tweaking, like I don't need all of the complexity that DaVinci Resolve offers. I can just get it done. So like, I'm not saying that Final Cut on the iPad is going to make stuff easier for me. I'll still have to learn stuff. I know that it's going to be one of those, it's like, why don't they just do it on the computer? Like I'll have that same kind of thinking. Like if I was 20, I wouldn't care. I'd just be like, I'm just taking this and that's what I'm using, and you can't stop me, and I'm going to make the best thing ever. And then like people, like we're going to see stuff from people that are going to be working with this, that are just going to be knocking stuff out that's going to be so amazing. And we're just going to be watching it going like, that's really cool. And you did it on the iPad. Fantastic. And then you're like, you try to open it up. You're like, but how did you do it? So I'm excited because it's a step in the right direction. Do you agree that it's a step in the right direction? We're at 61 votes, and where the yays are taking it. So if you haven't voted, make sure you vote in that poll. I'm definitely curious. So yeah, again, like if Final Cut Pro goes all in on the subscriptions, I'm following suit. And here's why. Here's why for me. This doesn't apply to everybody, but it applies for me. I have the full Adobe suite. I have the Red Giant Maxon full-on suite that has Cinema 4D, that has the Red Giant stuff. I have, oh man, like just other services. I have Dropbox. I have the G Drive. I have the iCloud. I have the DaVinci Cloud. Like everything all together, all my services bundled up in a month are more than $300 a month. So an extra $5 for using a tool that makes me money, I'm fine. Like no problem. It's just like, yeah, just tack it on, whatever. It's a business expense at this point. It's just like it lowers my income by $5, and I don't have to pay taxes on that $5 for that month. So it's like it's an easy yes for me. If for the iPad, I don't know, but like if the full version, point to a monitor, the full version is the one that helps me do stuff faster, like the background removals, easier text animations, better color correction, just do the audio. And then another big thing that is still, it's like they better do it, collaboration. They have to add that in if they want the pros to build whole ecosystems of using this tool. Oh, let's see. So I have LumaFusion. Do you think it's worth paying for Final Cut Pro? If you're using LumaFusion and you're working well with it, I would say test it out for a month. And if it doesn't improve your workflow, it doesn't add anything, then I'd say stick with LumaFusion. And if you're not able to make at least $5 from the things that you're creating with it, then stick with LumaFusion. Or go to DaVinci Resolve as the next tier before you go to Final Cut on the iPad. If you're speaking on the iPad, probably the desktop version will be updated too. Yeah, for sure. They've already said that for some of the features to work, to be able to send the project from the iPad to the Mac, you need to be using 10.6.6 or higher. Currently, we're at 10.6.5. So they may be coy and just saying it 10.6.6, but it may be 10.7 as the one that they release. So I'm curious. I'm excited. I'm curious. Are you excited? You excited? I'm excited. Yes, because they've already introduced one with the iPad version. They have the background removal tool. So they've already added that. And Apple has spent the last 2 years, I don't know if you can see it, where is it? That's not helping. Apple has spent the last 2 years putting in neural engines into all their computers for the last 2 years. It's right there. Processing is right there. They don't have to offload it to a server. It's just done on your computer. So yes, all those AI tools are coming, and they're coming. Apple is like an AI sleeper right now. Like, they're the ones that are lurking in the background, as they always do. They're lurking in the background, and they could be an AI juggernaut if they just decide to release the craziness that they have. Like, they're already using AI for the background removal, where, you know, they've trained their systems to be able to pick out people. Let's see how that works on objects versus just people. So it may be just limited to objects, kind of like Keeper was. But they've added the audio isolation tool, which is fantastic. I'm using it right now with this microphone as a VTS plugin through the server. Otherwise, here, let me turn it off for 1 second, and you'll be able to hear the difference. So this is without it on. So I'm using the sound isolation from Apple. So that's it off. And this is with it on. Can you hear a difference? Can you hear a difference? Let me know. I know when I did the test before, I was able to hear a difference. But yeah, so that's Apple's AI being processed in real time for the microphone that isn't available. Like, there's no other audio processing that Ecamm has. But Ecamm should, Doc Rock, I'm looking at you. Ecamm should just be able to add the sound isolation VST from Apple right into the mic inputs. Get on that. Get on that goodness for all of us. So I bought LumaFusion, but I prefer Final Cut on a desktop instead. Now I feel better using it on the iPad over LumaFusion. Yeah, I think it really comes down to what tool helps you elevate your storytelling, your process, and just getting stuff done. Bye Luma. It's so weird because there's this whole shift from people complaining about Premiere Pro going to DaVinci Resolve, and now it's going to be like people are moving to where they feel more comfortable. I'm curious if there's going to be a lot of switchers back. I do feel Adobe is going to step up their game, especially with the AR tools. And I do feel now way more confident that Apple will release a big Final Cut Pro update. But the bigger question is, will they continue updating it? And I think that's where the subscription model will become important. So if you want Apple to continue updating it, maybe subscribing to it. See, yeah, they're using their big brains. They'll make money. Let's see. Sure. Apple doesn't make VSTs. They make AU. Fine. If it can because Wavelink is able to access it. So if Elgato Wavelink can access it, can Ecamm access it? That's my question for you. Trying to catch up with your comments because you guys are awesome. Ooh, the bundle would be Final Cut Pro, Motion, and Compressor for $4.99 a month. It's not a bad deal. It's not a bad deal. It would take you 3 years, 4 years to almost spend the same amount of money. No, wait. That's $50 for the year. So that would be $350. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That would be 7 years before $300 would be coming out of your pocket. It's not a bad deal. Not a bad deal. Subscription will be quite a bummer for those who just recently bought Final Cut Pro in the hope that they will receive support and updates for years to come. Now here's something that Apple may do. They say if you bought it within the last 18 months, you get the subscription for free for a year. Like anyone that buys it within that time frame, I know Apple probably won't do it because they don't do that kind of crap. But it would be something that would be a very good move. But then it would piss off people that have, bought it 19 months. They would start complaining. And you know that there's going to be some joker out there that be like, oh, great, now it's on the iPad. I want it on my iPhone. Or I want Final Cut on my Apple Watch. Where's my Final Cut for Apple? I want to be editing. Roger sent me a clip of someone using a mouse and my new editing setup. It was on Instagram. It was pretty funny. Hold on, where are we? Yeah, hit that like button. Can you guys double check to see if the like button is working? Connect an external monitor to an iPad that has a keyboard with the touch interface and Apple iPad. I might have to look into getting a monitor now. That is interesting. Yeah, because you can hook up monitor to the iPads. And I know you can hook up SSDs to the iPads as well. So that is going to be, is that how this is going to work? Are we going to be using SSDs to edit off of? Can we do that? I have so many questions that need to be answered. But yeah, we got to figure this stuff out. We can, but we don't want to confuse muggles. I know I keep trying to show them. Yeah, well, it would be a cool thing. You're talking about the sound isolation, I'm pretty sure. Otherwise, he's talking about something else, and I'm completely confused, muggle, at this point. So, as a disabled creator, I'm terrified of the subscription model for the Mac version. Ooh, I don't have enough clients right now to be able to afford it. Costing me more money than $300 for a lifetime would be a godsend. That's interesting. So what if Apple did come out and say, for the new version, it's $300 because it's something new? How would you respond then? Would you be cool with that? Would you go for that, like a lifetime subscription, or like 10 years of Final Cut for $300? Like that's their deal. Is that something that may interest and convert more people to be like, okay, I'll pay for that? Interesting. That's an interesting insight. And yeah, it may be a way that they go. But I do feel that when people buy a new Mac, they will offer it for free. That doesn't help people that have computers already. Any improvements to the file management come to the iPad will help everyone. Yeah. Figuring out how to get large amounts of files to the iPad and off. Like when you record with the iPad, it records in ProRes. And we all know how ProRes goes on the iPhone, and how much storage that eats up so quickly. So will you be able to record directly onto an SSD or vice versa? How is that all going to work? Like, I know that a lot of people are having these exact same questions that I'm having. Like, I'm excited, just like everyone else, to get my hands on it and actually play with it. I was excited when DaVinci Resolve came out, but because it's not my go-to NLE as my preferred NLE for projects. Like, I definitely wouldn't do a client project on an iPad. Would I bring it to set? Yeah, but I only go to set like 3-5 times a year, where I actually need to be transferring stuff. Like, and usually I just transfer the footage as it's being kind of offloaded off the camera. And because I already have a laptop and I can bring in multiple SSDs, switching over to an iPad workflow may not make any sense to me just in my workflow. Because once you have a workflow going, you don't want to be switching that out. So, but if you're setting up a new one, it's definitely a good way to experiment. And also, most shoots, you'll like have a terabyte or 2 of footage like that, like within like 2 hours, like you've already maxed out your storage on your iPad. So I don't know how that's going to work unless you are able to literally edit off an SSD. But then you can't plug in more than one SSD, or can you have a Thunderbolt dock? Like, how does that work? That's like, again, so many questions, so many questions. How does that work? 69 votes, 51 saying yes, they'll go for it. Ooh, hopefully it all moves to iCloud and we just stream our edits. I think that may be a good collaborative workflow solution. They already have the backbone for iCloud. So being able to upload everything, and then they're sending proxies out for the edit, or people download and they have the footage on their hard drives, but then the metadata changes. I'm very curious to see how they're going to do the collaborative workflow. I know when they did it with Pages, when you can collaborate on Pages, not as smoothly as with like Google Docs or anything like that, but if they figure that out, if they're able to do that in near real time, like say someone is color correcting, but like the timeline is locked, or someone's doing the audio mixing while the timeline is locked for the main editor, and you can kind of announce it. It's kind of similar to what Blackmagic is doing. I wonder if they're going to be drinking the Blackmagic DaVinci Resolve Kool-Aid. So will Apple use a Filmic Pro, call it a legacy version, and the version becomes subscription-based on desktop? Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. Like, I think with Final Cut Pro, they may call Final Cut Pro X, because Final Cut 7 or the Final Cut Studio, that was from like 99 or from 2001 when they initially released it to 2011. So it had a 10-year run. Like, it had its block. Then from 2011 to today, 2023, notwithstanding COVID, because there may have been different different plans had COVID not kind of come into fruition. They may have been like, okay, this is now that. Now it's its own decade-long app. Now we're moving into this. So there may be a big shift, a big paradigm shift when it comes to editing again for Final Cut. Like, it may not be as drastic as it was from Final Cut Studio to Final Cut 10, but it definitely poses the question. So I also bet that iCloud will work flawlessly too. After all, iCloud is subscription, and that is a killer business model. Did you know that Apple had the opportunity to buy Dropbox for $250 million? And Steve Jobs said, no. I don't know. No, this, I don't see the use in this. Like, that's like, I actually really like Dropbox. I haven't found a better solution for, because I work with a really big team doing the medical animation with Mad Microbe, and there's like 15, 20 artists, and we have probably like 20 terabytes worth of projects that are living on Dropbox servers, and then, you know, all that is synced to our own server. But we have access to everything, and, you know, we maxed out our internet speeds. So, you know, it's a 300 gig project. We're able to download it in like an hour, and then we're able to work on it. And then we're constantly syncing to it. We're updating it. And the workflow is actually, it's quite intuitive and really straightforward. And it's been something that we've been doing for 4 years, and it works great. I couldn't see myself doing that. We tried to do it with Google Drive. It just crapped the bed. There was no option to even do it with iCloud. We looked at other services, but we kept coming back to Dropbox. It was the only one that was reliable and has been consistent. We've used it so much that our devs are working with their devs to make it work better. Like they're talking to the developer saying, hey, we ran into this issue. There was a problem where they had a max of 300,000 files was the maximum that you could store before their system kind of went all belly up. So they actually had to amend that and fix that too, because of how we were working with it. It was pretty crazy. Yeah, we blew through their limits, and we're pushing them to make the service better. So, but yeah, Apple had the opportunity to buy it to buy Dropbox, and Dropbox is for us. It's so simple and so elegant. It's a folder on my desktop, and then you just sync to it. Like iCloud doesn't come close to it. Like it doesn't sync right away and doesn't sync certain files. Like it feels weird. I haven't really paid attention to iCloud more than just like, storing the 2 terabytes of family goodness on it. So Final Cut Pro is, 10.6.6 is announced in Apple's web, on the website, and it will have new features besides the iPad compatibility. It's going to have to be, because if you do, like, say, the audio isolation, or you do the background removal, and then you move that project over, if that feature is not in the desktop, then there's no point of moving it over. So it has to be part of the offering that they're going to give for what the next update is. Is it going to be 10.6.6? Maybe a small little update, and then like a week later, they may drop a big bomb of like, oh, well, not a bomb. I hope it doesn't bomb, because having Final Cut Pro just bomb would be, hello, DaVinci Resolve, permanently, cold turkey, no looking back. So the other big issue with the subscription model will be just the fear of losing your data. If you skip a month or whatever reason, That's why the lifetime was so beneficial as well. Yes, but as if you're using Premiere Pro or anything like that, the projects don't go away. You just can't open the app. That's the only lock. You don't lose the data. So then if you don't need to use it for say 6 months, but then a client comes back and says, "Hey, yeah, let's pick up that project again." And then you pick up the subscription until you're done. Like I used to do that with Cinema 4D because or even with Maya, because they charge like $200 a month for that subscription. And there was like a couple of years where I was only doing like 1 or 2 projects a year, and I didn't want to spend the $3,000 a year for their license. So I would just rent it for the 1 or 2 months. It was more expensive monthly than it was for the year subscription, but then I would just rent it for those couple of months that I was using it, because I would bake it into the cost of the work that I was doing. So like I would just charge an extra day for the month, or I would charge an extra 5 hours or whatever to cover that cost, and it would be part of the work that has to be done, right? If you're your own business, you're paying for your computers, you're paying for the subscriptions, but ultimately the client should be paying for that if you set up your business right. If you set up your pricing right, that's the thing. So I can't imagine editing on a tiny 12-inch iPad versus a 32-inch monitor connected to a desktop or laptop. I guess I just don't get the excitement. But then again, I'm not a big iPad fan. Okay, me neither. I am with you there. I'd prefer to edit on a 15-inch MacBook Pro, but a 15-inch MacBook Pro isn't much bigger than the 12-inch, the 13-inch iPad. But you can connect this to a monitor. So if you just need it on the go, you're on an airplane, you're traveling, you're going to set, but then you can just plug it into a big monitor. It may be more than enough to at least experiment with, because you can connect a mouse and keyboard to this and have the pencil. So all of a sudden it turns into a tablet where you can draw. So there are benefits. There are benefits to it. Yeah, well, if Apple had bought them, there may have been some better security. We tried Box. We tried it. We over like between 15 users, we couldn't get it to work as effectively. And we tried for a good 3-4 months. We weren't able to get it up and running. I can say with certainty, I'd love to edit a first cut on my hammock using touch only. Yeah, let's see how that goes. Report back. Be very, very curious. Hey, Jared, how's it going? Yeah, 100% we should never have to pay out of pocket. It's all built into our pricing. If you're running a business, the business is paying for everything that you're doing. You have to cost it in there. So that's where you need to not be afraid to talk about money. You need to talk confidently about money and just say, like, know your price going in, what your expenses are, how much profit you need to make, what's a little bit of overhead and the security, and that's your price. That's how you need to set it up. There's so many freelancers have come through that I've chatted with where they're coming from a full-time gig where they're charging, say, like $50 an hour, and then they start a freelance business and they're charging $50 an hour, and I'm like, what are you doing? You can't do that. The studio that was hiring you for $50 an hour was charging you out at $250 an hour. So that's overhead. That's the insurance. That's the building, the electricity, the computers, everything like that. So like you need to know what the bare minimum is before you even start to make profit, and then add 30%. And then that's what you charge as your rate. Say if you wanted to do a day rate or an hourly rate or however you want to do it. A project rate is probably one of the best ways to do it. and you do it in a way where you even add in like, oh, when they add in revisions or the last minute changes, you bake that all in. This is not the second channel. Don't talk about freelance finance here. That's not what we're doing here. Excuse me. But I can talk about that all day. Make sure you check out my second channel where I talk about freelance financials, the creative solopreneur playbook. I talk about all that kind of stuff and how to make money by working less, essentially. That's what it comes down to. Yeah, work backwards on your pricings, peeps. Okay, back to Final Cut Pro. Back to Final Cut Pro, because I can go all day about freelance stuff. So where are we at? We're at 76 votes, 50-50. That is interesting. Finally, somebody says what I've been saying the whole time. The client pays for it. It's a non-issue. Yeah, 100%. 100%. So cool updates. I will not be getting an iPad edition, but I hope some of these features will come to the desktop. Yeah, for sure they're coming. And I actually think that more is going to come. I think there's going to be more audio features. I was interested in the fact that they updated Final Cut Pro and Logic Pro. And I think they missed an opportunity to say that, or maybe they just didn't announce it. I feel they missed an opportunity to say, send your Final Cut Pro to mix your audio in DaVinci and then round trip it back. Especially on an iPad, like that should be simple. That should be something that is available. Like Final Cut Pro is so massively missing audio features that they don't have to be Pro Tools. They just have to be like, give me audio buses, give me the rolls where I can drop effects onto an entire roll as like, that's the audio bus. Like, just it affects everything that's in that audio roll instead of having to drop an effect on every single one or to then pre-comp it or make a compound clip. I hate using compound clips because it's just like, because then all you see is one block. It's like, it's essentially, you've made a new clip, but then you don't see the edits. And it's just like, no, I want to be able to still see my edits. I don't want to keep bouncing in and out, or at least make it pancake timelines where I can, be here and then like make an edit and it affect. It's just like, that's sloppy. The compound clips are sloppy to work with when you're thinking about audio. My favorite part of business is trying to price a client away by charging 2 or 3 times my rate, hoping to make them leave and still agree on the big rate. Yeah, I've been there many times. The go away rate where you just said like, yeah, I can do that. That's going to be $30,000. And like they're going to say, no, okay, that's a bit too crazy. But more often than not, I've had clients say, great, when can we start? And I'm like, oh, well, let's go. Yeah, then I guess we're doing this. All I want is music where timing, make it longer or shorter. Very much similar to the remix tool in Premiere Pro, which is a fantastic AI tool to be able to remix the audio going in and out. Now, there is that ability on the iPad version, but I think it's only limited to the 40 tracks that are built in to the software. So if they open it up to other pieces of software, I think that may be a great way to kind of combat that, to be able to do that. Like it's there. So they've already shown that they can do it. Just let me use my own stuff, not only 40 clips, because unless they start adding more clips, but like there's no way they're going to get to 3,000 clips in, different genres and whatever craziness. So unless they spark a deal with some stock music site where all of a sudden they open it up to that, like it wouldn't be far-fetched for them to just go and buy Artlist, say, and then just have access to their entire library that gets plugged directly into Final Cut Pro. That it's not crazy. It's not crazy. But yeah, Final Cut Pro on the iPad. Interesting, exciting, curious. Curious to see how it is, and curious to see how they push the desktop version, because it's coming. All those little features that we've been kind of barking for. I do hope that they have listened to the keyframes and all those little annoyances that have been present. So now it's a matter of like, hey, do we want to do this for the entire process, for the entire app? But anyways, I just want to kind of share my thoughts, hear your thoughts. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Make sure you vote. We're at 77 votes. Ooh, the no's are winning by 2%. Enough to win this election. Yeah, so make sure you vote. 50-50 on the subscription. It's an exciting time. Today was an exciting day for sure for everyone that's been hoping for some positive news in the front of Final Cut. Like it's moving in a direction. It seems like a positive direction. If they go subscription, I feel I'm still going to be all in. I will support the further development of Final Cut Pro. I hope that more people will too, because it will just encourage them to keep updating it and keep improving it and keep us using it and being able to make money ourselves. Anyways, I just want to say thanks for hanging out with me today. You guys have a great rest of your day. Happy Tuesday. Happy Final Cut iPad day. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Bye for now.